Yeah, so to be super honest, like Liv, my co-founder, and I, when we were in our undergrads, there were 5 tragic suicides across our campus community in less than a year. And it was so devastating. It was alarming. And so Liv and I, evidently, there was, like, as you said, there was an issue where we want to see what, I mean, at the very least, like what could we at least do to chip away at the mental health crisis? And so we started with mindfulness meditations. Mindfulness meditations were and continue to be something that Liv and I really, find helpful for our own stress management and our own, dealing with the pressures to perform at a high level. So we were sharing that. And then when the pandemic hit and just entering Next 36, it was apparent that, tech could enable us to reach more students. And so we embarked on this journey. And really, it's interesting because the in-person mindfulness meditations, the mission of creating more resilient, self-aware, and connected campuses through those mindful experiences was very much translated into the technology of, again, building more resilient, self-aware, and connected campuses, but through a web application. And so that's how we got started. And, we identified this challenge of accessing mental health support, of even that first step to finding what you need when you need it. We identified that before the pandemic, and then it was exacerbated through the pandemic. We saw also a lot of mental health challenges increase and become more complicated. And now coming out of the pandemic, we note that there is so much work to be done. There's a lot of what we'll see even in terms of speaking to the wellness directors at several universities and colleges, that a lot of the mental health challenges have become more complicated. And so kind of more indication of students experiencing psychosis symptoms or bipolar, etc. And so, yeah, we're in a position now where it's just students are coming back to campus. Super exciting. I'm also excited to be back on campus with students. Also, a little bit worried about the wave of burnout that we may see. And just as, we had to retreat, there was a shock being, forced to be just in person, isolated, etc. We're really looking out for how do we support students as they enter 100% back in these school settings specifically.
Hello and welcome to Say Hi to the Future, a podcast aimed at highlighting the human side of ingenuity. My name is Ken Tenser, CEO of SpyderWorks, a leading business consultancy for mid-market organizations and entrepreneurs globally. With me today is Staszczyszyn, co-founder at Compass, a holistic mental health platform that provides students with resources based on their unique needs, wants, and identity. Like this video if you enjoy our show, and subscribe to our channel. Leave us a comment with who we should interview next. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy the show. So Eve, you were the very, very first guest that we had on the show, and I think we've got around 60 or 70 episodes at this point. So some time has passed, and we love to catch up to see how the future actually turned out for our guests.
Oh boy, loaded question. The future has turned out dynamically. It's been quite the journey since we chatted, and resilience has certainly been a really big theme in especially like the sort of the entrepreneurial work that I'm doing and the work for mental health and wellness on campuses across Canada.
Take a step back, Eve, for all the listeners, take a step back, because I mean, at that point it was Wellness World. You were, I think it was actually pre Rotman's Next 36. You were just getting things up and going. So yeah, take a step back, tell us where you started and get the listeners familiar again.
So when we had chatted, I was just entering the Next 36 program, which is an incredible entrepreneurial boot camp for young entrepreneurs. And so in that program, we learned so many, valuable skills. It's almost like a mini crash course MBA for young entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
And so the time my co-founder Liv and I, we were working on Wellness World with the dream to support students in connecting to mental health support when they needed or before they needed it, according to their unique needs and identity. And so since then, we launched our MVP with a couple of amazing software engineers. And then we took a couple of years working with many different developers, and really happy to say we worked with a couple of schools, and we are set to launch at McGill University in just a few days. So I kind of skimmed there from the very beginning until where I'm at right now. But in between, it's been a number of different accelerators. It's been journeying to the West Coast of Canada as well to, conduct student consultations all throughout. The mission is still very much the same, to create more resilient, self-aware, and connected campuses. And so we've iterated since, and I'm really happy to also say one of, I guess, the proudest things, the biggest features that we are now set to launch again in a few days is an algorithm that connects students to mental health support based on their unique needs and identities. So we worked with an amazing clinical psychologist advisor, Dr. Stacey Cosmerly, in the early days to inform us of, how could we best understand what a student is going through and then connect them to the support they need, whether it's on campus, off campus, or online.
It's amazing. So tell me what that first spark was, because I mean, I'm on my third round of education. My first two done when you usually do it in your teens and 20s in terms of undergrad and grad, and doing my doctorate now in my 50s, just because it seemed like the right thing to do. There's always been a lot of stress as a student, but it seems like it's multiplied. It seems like, and again, just as a layperson speaking or asking, it seems like the pressure to perform at a high level has just gotten that much more intense, maybe since I was there. So how did you recognize that, or what was that spark that said, you know what, there's something wrong here that needs to be addressed?
Yeah, so to be super honest, like Liv, my co-founder, and I, when we were in our undergrads, there were 5 tragic suicides across our campus community in less than a year. And it was so devastating. It was alarming. And so Liv and I, evidently, there was, like, as you said, there was an issue where we want to see what, at the very least, like, what could we at least do to chip away at the mental health crisis? And so we started with mindfulness meditations. Mindfulness meditations were and continue to be something that Liv and I really, find helpful for our own stress management and our own, dealing with the pressures to perform at a high level. So we were sharing that. And then when the pandemic hit and just entering Next 36, it was apparent that, tech could enable us to reach more students. And so we embarked on this journey. And really, it's interesting because the in-person mindfulness meditations, the mission of creating more resilient, self-aware, and connected campuses through those mindful experiences was very much translated into the technology of, again, building more resilient, self-aware, and connected campuses, but through a web application. And so that's how we got started. And, we identified this challenge of accessing mental health support, of even that first step to finding what you need when you need it. We identified that before the pandemic, and then it was exacerbated through the pandemic. We saw also a lot of mental health challenges increase and become more complicated. And now, coming out of the pandemic, we note that there is so much work to be done. There's a lot of what we'll see even in terms of speaking to the wellness directors at several universities and colleges, that a lot of the mental health challenges have become more complicated. And so kind of more indication of students experiencing psychosis symptoms or bipolar, etc. And so, yeah, we're in a position now where it's just students are coming back to campus. Super exciting. I'm also excited to be back on campus with students. Also, a little bit worried about the wave of burnout that we may see. And just as, we had to retreat, there was a shock being, forced to be just in person, isolated, etc. We're really looking out for how do we support students as they enter 100% back in these school settings specifically.
So that's an incredible realization. But when you speak to it, though, I think of the different values around Say Hi to the Future and audacity. The audacity to do something, to act on it is one of them. And I think the question to you is, there are hundreds of thousands of students in Canada alone. Why do you think that you and Liv were the ones who took a step back and said, yeah, we have to be the two people who do this or start this or be amongst the curve? Because it takes a lot of recognition, takes a lot of self-confidence, and it takes, I don't know if the word is gumption, but yeah, what made you two say this has to be done?
There's that, like, Mahatma Gandhi quote of "be the change you wish to see in the world." I think there was one summer where we were just so fired up about this. And I think we were really energized by the work that we got to do, just being with students on campus and hearing so much of these stories of what students were going through, the challenges, and just hearing from our peers, like it was just such an evident issue. And so like why? I think that we're extremely close to the problem. I think it's one that we were also, I think, engaging in, day out. It wasn't like we were turning a blind eye, but we were actually very intentionally engaging with it. And I think just engaging with to this extent and knowing the reality, we looked at each other and we had this just shared passion to solve the problem and to I can just say, like, chip away at the fraction of this crisis. And it's day in, day out work and just trying to push ahead in this. But I think also just having each other is really huge. Like the fact that we have this really strong partnership, it helps us affirm that there's another person that is equally passionate, and we keep each other motivated too. There's something there for sure in terms of having such a close friend and a really good business partner to keep one another going.
No, that's great, and that's really wonderful. And yes, it's important. I think of all the business work I've done, I've had wonderful supportive partners through that. So it's great to hear. It's also important. I mean, we've talked about in general, but specific to your business, that the original idea is never the idea of the day, if you will. There's so many iterations and twists and turns you go through. When we last spoke, this was Wellness World. It's not anymore. What is it now, and what are some of the changes you're bringing about?
We rebranded from Wellness World to Compass, and there are a few reasons for that. I think through student consultation, we noticed the word wellness in our title, Wellness World, could be a bit of a turnoff to folks who are dealing with serious mental illness. We already there's so much stigma surrounding mental health, and yes, it's diminishing, but we have far more work to do. And so we wanted something to be a bit more neutral, and Compass really being an encompassing term of what we're doing, and also supporting students in navigating support. And with the notion of compass, really thinking about how it gives the student agency, seeing this compass and seeing it as your guide, but you really making your own choices and choosing to follow what feels right in terms of the pathway to support.
So what is the compass now? What are you doing to help navigate? What's the interface?
The platform really is one that centralizes support, whether it's on campus, off campus, or online. Something new since we chatted, of course, has been the Compass exclusive support. So we've developed a number of workshops and content for alternative and complementary mental health support. So this ranges from even burnout prevention workshops to content to support folks in mindful relationships with foods, to meditations, et cetera. But really, the platform is one that, it was a web application to begin with, and it continues to be. We'll see what other formats it takes. But I think that the platform now has automated recommendations for the support that's best for you. So again, like a student fills out a number of sensitive questions and they get instant recommendations on the combination of support that speaks to their unique needs, wants, and identities. And then on the flip side, we've also been testing this and soon to be implementing as well, the element of trusted compass guides. When you get your recommendations, not only being able to see them on a screen, yes, and communicate to us via email, but also having a person who you can connect with via Zoom or other medium to support you in better understanding those resources and actually keeping you accountable to getting that support and in helping you through the ebbs and flows of the journey. And this is actually, thinking even about human ingenuity and just the power of like humans, and that, we have somewhat the empathy that we have, the sentience, etc. We found that yes, the tech was great, but we also wanted to have more of a human element to it. And so that's why the introduction of the trusted compass guides.
I mean, that's quite a leap. Kudos on that. And I know that you're sitting in Montreal today. I know that you're going to be deploying at McGill University. Talk to me about what deployment means of Compass and all these navigational guides in sort of a real-time basis. Like, how will students know that you are there?
that's why we're here, right? So that we can be on campus, boothing, hosting events, and really just getting that face-to-face interaction with students. I already got to be boothing last week, and it was just amazing to chat with students so candidly, understand what they're doing for their mental health and wellness, where they can use more support, etc. And really, yeah, so a really big portion of our work right now is driving adoption. It's been a whole year of essentially building, of working with the amazing McGill, Wellness Center, to the everyone you can imagine, for procurement, legal, IT, etc. It's been a whole undertaking, and now, having had student consultation throughout, I'm just so excited to be on the ground with students and ensuring that we are also, in this really iterative way, collecting their feedback and funneling it back into new features or improvements to the platform, etc. So big theme, yeah, in terms of driving adoption, is really just being on the ground and getting involved with the different student societies, with the clubs, etc., and integrating ourselves into the McGill ecosystem and gaining that real trust as well with students.
And when you talk about students and engaging them and being on the ground, you also spoke a little bit about new potential iterations, new potential applications, which to me are it's critical, as an entrepreneur, to say, hey, who else or how else can we apply this, grow it, change it, etc. So, are you in a position to talk to us a little bit about your next iterations, about wellness centers and the like?
Yeah, so I'll say, like, a big theme for us is continuously improving the personalization of the platform. We know that's huge for the students, big for our buyers, etc. Like everyone, being at the universities and colleges, I mean, a lot of the students feel just like a number amidst, all the the big enrollment population. And so we're continuously working towards personalizing the pathway to support personalizing the mental health and wellness journey for students. So all of our iterations, I would say, surround that. And, really what we work towards is ensuring that a student will, say Compass has been very helpful in connecting to the right support. And so personalization is sort of a precursor to that. So some of, the basic iterations are even knowing what other information is important for us to understand about a student so that we can even better connect them to support. Is it a new question surrounding something very nuanced about their identities or whatnot? Like right now, I'll give a simple example. We ask if a student is looking for religious or spiritual based support. And so this gives us an indication of, should we connect them to multi-faith support, etc. But, we want to get more granular. Like, how do we really understand a student's spirituality and religion, and then connect them to the very specific support there? So lots, I would say, is around personalization, because we know that's what's going to enable us to connect a student in the best way possible to the support that they need.
So as you describe that, and you described and you used the word a little bit earlier on, resilience, or being resilient, because I think, yes, connecting people to the right resources is critical, helping them through and helping them, I guess, come back to a state of normal, whatever that normal is for them, or whatever that normal is that however they define it and achieve it. And for me, resilience, the ability to bounce back, to overcome whatever life puts in your way, because it's going to. It seems that is a very big part of what you are, what you can be doing, because students are going through something at a young age relative to their life, and to me, bringing them back again to whatever, and I hate the word normal, but whatever that may be, and teaching them how to bounce back, how to cope, how to stay strong. It just seems to be a really critical part of what you might be doing.
Absolutely. I think that I am very much in agreement too with even the way you define resilience. It's, for me, I think about it's like your propensity to bounce back.
Mhm.
So I think a lot about, resources being, that's such a broad umbrella, but those are services, they're apps, they're group, they're, peer-to-peer support, etc. But really, I think resources enable folks, and in my case, especially students, with the education and the tools to cope, to bounce back faster, to be more self-aware so that they can understand what is happening in a given situation, where are they, and how to bounce back. So yeah, I think altogether, like the more that we can equip folks with the tools and the education to be resilient, I mean, I think ultimately that also has such a powerful effect on our collective. If every individual is equipped with those tools and with that education, like what can that mean for us, as a community, in my case campuses, but then just in general in the community and in our country and in the world.
Absolutely, and you've just touched on, and I'll say it here. We'll be welcoming you to our panel coming up in Mississauga, a path, say hi to the future, a path to resilience. And we are looking at resilience from all those angles. We'll be speaking about personal human resilience. We'll be speaking about corporate and team resilience, and we'll be speaking about societal resilience. And at the end of the day, it all comes down to what you're doing in creating resilient, well-balanced, focused individuals. So thank you so much for your update, and just wish you all the best, and we will see you on stage very soon.
Thank you for having me, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Take care.
You will.